Welcome everybody to the weekly IBFX Thursday night webinar. I appreciate y'all joining me tonight. Our topic for today's discussion is market phases and GRaB, and I decided to go back to basics in many ways in terms of today's topic because I really wanted to make sure that these tools, and these are really foundational tools, and these are really at the heart of what I do each and every day. They're my most important tools without a doubt. So we're going to talk about where to get these indicators, what they are. I'll tell you a little bit about how I came upon them and why I use them, what I expect of them, the setup on your charts, and of course I'll open the floor up for Q&A. So a couple resources. We usually want to cover these right off the bat because inevitably if you have questions, I want to make sure you can go to a place and get some answers. So let's take a quick peek over at the Daily Forex Trading Edge, which is at www.dailyforextradingedge.com, and this is where my daily analysis appears. So we have our Daily Trading Edge. If you guys remember the Daily Trading Edge from the IBFX website, we basically elaborated on what used to be at the home page and given that content a home of its own. All the archives are, I think, much easier to access. You can leave comments underneath any of the analysis and I'll get back to you directly. Okay, we have a handful of contributors there, including myself. So we're really still in the very, very early stages of what we're going to do with this website, but already we're getting a really tremendous amount of positive feedback. So, we're just continually adding just more content. Speaking of content, if you head on over to the Education tab, you'll notice that we have not only the registration for the month in terms of the different presentations. By the way, on Tuesday, I don't know how many of you have anything going on Tuesday morning. Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern, we'll be doing an auto chartist webinar with actually one of the, I guess you can say, owners, founders of auto chartists. I've known Eric and Elon from auto chartists for a number of years. I'm an avid auto chartist user, Power Stats, the chart patterns, the Fibonacci patterns. I'm a big fan of theirs, and actually I'm one of their content contributors, and I actually am their lead instructor over at Auto Chartist too. So it really fits hand in glove with my chief currency analyst responsibilities at IBFX because one of our featured tools is the Auto Chartist chart pattern, Fibonacci pattern, and Power Stats tool, which we've talked about here in the past. We'll be doing a webinar again Tuesday morning, and I'll be in attendance. Hopefully some of you all can make it. And then you can register for our upcoming webinars. The videos from past webinars, I usually direct you all over to the YouTube channel, which you could absolutely still head on over to. That is alive and well and full of great content. That's at youtube.com/interbankfx videos, but you can also go to the Education tab and see a number of the playbacks available right here. Okay, so convenient, and if you have questions about any analysis that I've done, the Daily Trading Edge or the market analysis, today I talked about a little bit about what the risk rally is, so you can definitely keep in touch with me here. Today's tools, by the way, I do want to make sure everybody can download today's tools. Again, the GRaB candles and the 34 EMA wave. And I also want to make sure that I remind everybody, if you haven't logged into your account in some time, please sign in the upper right-hand corner and download the most recent version of the IBFX Trader 4 platform, because on this new platform, which we have completely retooled with the good folks over at MT4I, we have a number of very cool tools. I'll be talking about those as well tonight. But please make sure you download. Now, the new version is the May version, and I'll double check the build so you all can check on your platforms to make sure you're on the most updated build. I want to remind everybody that if you have the previous version, it will not, okay, I repeat, it will not actually update to the version that I am talking about, okay? It will not do so. What you must do is go download the new version, and then you can have the tools that I'll be using tonight as well as in future presentations. If you're not ready to do that yet, that's fine. You can download the tools that I'll be using tonight directly from ibfx.com/tools/GRaB, G-R-A-B. Okay? You can download the file from this website. But if you download the new version, it's already included in the custom indicators list. Very convenient. Okay, we will be using the new version, and it looks a lot like the old version, I think it's just a more improved build. Okay, so there are your resources. Daily Forex Trading Edge. Make sure you download the new version of the IBFX4 platform. By the way, you can keep up with us through Facebook and through Twitter. The YouTube link is available right from the Daily Forex Trading Edge site. So you can download videos through education. You can also get to YouTube right from the home page of the Daily Forex Trading Edge. Okay, it's all right there, very accessible. The Twitter feed is actually my personal Twitter feed, so you can follow me there. And the Facebook feed is the Daily Forex Trading Edge Facebook feed. Of course, I'm on Facebook as well, as is, it seems, everybody. I don't know how many of you checked out the new Google+. I've been toying around with that as well, but I just don't see that being a direct threat to Facebook anytime soon. But social media being what it is, anywhere that you can access some good content, feed your mind, it's always a good thing. So let's go ahead and jump on over to the MT4I version of the Interbank FX Trader 4. Now, this is the platform. Looks a lot like the version you're probably used to. Okay. This is the build. I want to make sure everyone's got the most current. Here's the build, okay? You can see there the build is actually the 402. Okay, you can see that there. May 2011, 402. All right, that's the version I'm using. And from this version, I'm going to show you some very cool tools. All right, so having said that, two of the major additions to the platform is the trade terminal window, okay, and also where you'd have your pairs listed so that you can execute right from that trade terminal window. Also, we have, and I know it's here somewhere, if not I can bring it up. Just bear with me a moment. Utilize our good old navigator here and drop down to custom indicators, and you'll see here, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. There we go. You'll see here the list of the indicators that are already included. The terminal window is one of them, and you can also access, and it's like having a browser right from inside the platform, which is very cool. You can also access the auto chartist from there as well. The tools I'm talking about tonight are going to be these three right here, the IBFX GRaB, G-R-A-B, GRaB. These tools right here, these three, the green, the red, and the blue. And those are all added to each one of the charts you see here in front of you. Okay? Very cool to have. The other tool that you can actually activate here is called IBFX Connect. And the IBFX Connect, which you can see here under Expert Advisors, will actually allow you to access a number of things like news, the Twitter feed, your account, right from inside the platform. Okay, and actually let me go ahead and show you what that looks like. Here's the IBFX Connect. You see that it took the chart and basically turned it into a window. You get your news feed here. You can access a calendar here, Twitter feed. Okay, so those are some of the new. I'm trying to show you why it's great to go ahead and upgrade to the newer version. Just some excellent tools built right into the platform. And again, it makes activating the GRaB that much easier. All right, so let's go ahead and talk specifically about the GRaB. Okay, I'm going to clear up one of these charts. This is the GRaB active on a chart. The green, red, and blue candles, my 34 EMA wave. I say these are the most important tools because everything I do begins with an assessment of the market's sentiment, momentum, and trend. Now, when it comes to making those decisions, I'm going to tell you that basically, if you're looking at one chart and you're taking your sweet time and you're going about your day in a very slow manner and you're trading end of day charts, that's probably going to be fine. Okay, but if you're looking at multiple pairs, multiple time frames, maybe some short-term time frames, 5, 15, 30-minute charts, you're not necessarily going to have the luxury of time. And therefore, automating some decisions, making them more visual, where you don't necessarily have to do more than glance at a chart, I think is an absolute imperative. Okay, and that's the theory behind the GRaB candles and the 34 EMA wave. Now, with that in mind, there's a proper view for this tool. There's a proper view for looking at this tool, making sure that you are getting the proper, what I call clock angle. So I'm going to go to those basics right now. Now, I don't know how many of you out there actually consciously decide how much data you're going to look at on your chart. I know a lot of people, when they're new, look at candles in a very, they look at very few candles, very large candles, mainly because it's intimidating to look at more data. It's kind of like the steering wheel analogy when you're a new driver. You're just shoved right up against that steering wheel. You're so scared. You're white knuckling the wheel, and that's what new drivers do. And I tend to find that new traders look at very little data. Experienced traders look at a lot of data. Some traders don't even consider how far back, what I call the look back of the market memory, is on the chart. However the chart opens is how they go ahead and accept it. Okay, so they either have a random kind of non-conscious setting on their charts, or they simply let the charts open up to whatever they will, and that's what they operate from. I found that very interesting, because if all the decisions that I'm making are being made from the chart, I think the amount of data that I consider really should be psychologically relevant, and time and experience taught me what those settings are. So the time frames that I trade from, the 5, 15, 30, 60, 240, and daily, okay, they each have a market memory. In other words, they each have what I feel to be a proper amount of data that I should begin doing some analysis from right off the bat. Okay. Now I also have, by the way, just so you know, an AutoChartist plugin running on this chart, which I'm going to deactivate here in a moment, simply because we're not really talking about it today. It's the power stats, and we'll probably talk about that plenty on Tuesday. Okay, so we can set that aside for another time. But the amount of data, again, has to be relevant to the time frame. So many of you here probably are already familiar with what I call my directional bias. That is a clock reading, a market trend reading taken from the daily time frame. Okay? This is the time frame that I think most people should start their analysis with, mainly because it reveals, in my opinion, the overall psychology of the market. Okay, and by the way, if I'm using a word, some terminology that you're unfamiliar with, or if I've lost you, you do have a question window that you can type into, a text box that you can type into, and leave any questions, and I will do my best to get to them. And my only request is that you keep them on topic, okay? Keep them on today's topic, if possible. Thank you. So the directional bias, again, is there to reveal what the overall or dominant psychology of the market is. Let's talk about this for a moment, because there's a lot of interesting price action going on right now. A lot of interesting price action. And I know I wanted to share something with you. Right, I think I was going to talk about how many decisions you have to make if you're looking at multiple charts and so forth. That was what I wanted to show you. And what I'm going to show you is actually an article that got posted at, I believe it was CNN Money today. Just to give you an idea, and I actually kind of tried to keep it as authentic as possible. And you'll see here what I mean in a moment. So it was a CNN Money article written about Forex trading. And the title of the update was called Day Trading the Euro in Your Pajamas. Okay? And that is my disaster. Actually, that is pretty much exactly what I'm sitting in front of right now. This is a picture that my husband had taken of me. Hair unbrushed. I don't even think I had my first cup of tea in the morning yet. And that is the disaster of a desk that I sit in front of. But, I probably could have cleaned it off and made it look all pristine and so forth. But when I'm trying to basically do all the things that I'm doing in my office, you notice, I don't know if you can see them, I'm a big fan of the sticky note and the big yellow pad that I write all my trades and ideas on. Okay. I've got, as a backup, you can see there on the left side, kind of right off the front of my face, I've got my iPad running off a separate 3G connection. So if I actually have to access my virtual private server, which actually you have access through at ibfx.com, I actually access my VPS or VPN or whatever they're called that you can utilize through ibfx.com. I actually access that through my iPad. So if my connection goes dead, my iPad actually can go tap into that connection, and I can still manage my trades right through my iPad with that separate 3G. So that's what that iPad's on my desk. It's completely separate from the rest of the connection. So for the sake of the picture, I kind of only had two charts. You can see there the charts to the left and the just left of the TV on my charts. But do you see how I have about 8 charts per window? And usually that's stretched out across 3, if not all 4 of the monitors you see in front of you. Okay? So in terms of the view, at minimum, I'm looking at 2. And this was probably taken in the afternoon when I was probably doing most of my my writing. You can see actually the daily Forex Trading Edge is up on the 3rd monitor, and a website called Chartly is up on the right monitor. So I was probably doing some updates by this point, so it's probably the afternoon. Anyways, so what I want to explain to you is your platform can stretch across multiple screens if you have it. Now, this is why I was stressing the importance of visual tools like the wave and GRaB candles, because I might be looking at a minimum of 16 charts, if not closer to what? 24 or 32 charts across these screens. Now, if you're looking at that much information, you really have to be able to glance at a chart and then be able to make some quick decisions. So each monitor has, as you can see, well, I don't know if you can tell from the picture, but I have a quote window in the lower left-hand corner, and then I have my 15, 30, 60, 240 daily and 5-minute chart. Okay, on one pair on each window. So what I'm able to do, and I've talked to you guys a lot about this multiple time frame, this triage process. This is it at work right here. Each monitor is dedicated to one pair, and at a glance, I can do my triage. I can do the analysis that I need to do on a single pair all at once, because I can look at a single pair and make a decision about which one has the clearest market trend, which one, and take a look at the directional bias off the daily. I can look at everything that I need to know about that pair in terms of the multiple time frames and make decisions about which time frame I think is in the best market trend by my clarity indicator, so I can look at the smoothness of the wave, obviously the direction of the wave. I can look at how established it is. I can look if it's been respected on previous bounces or pullbacks. I can do that all in a single glance, looking at all the time frames that I would potentially trade for that pair. So it's really important to me that, you don't have to necessarily have multiple monitors, okay? But I think it's really important that you have multiple time frames in front of you. Now, obviously, this view here is not what I want you to look at. Okay, I always wanted to make sure people understood that when you are looking at our webinar presentations, I really seek to simply make it as simple as possible to view, realizing at some point you're probably going to be watching a playback that might only be 640 by 360 on your screen. So having all those tiny little views won't be really that helpful. I don't want you thinking this view you see in front of you right now, the single screen, is how I trade. By the way, the white charts, you can change a background on your MT4, obviously, on your IBFX Trader 4 platform. You can change the background to white if you want. I don't mind the black. I do have white charts because when I want to print my charts out, my daily journals are printed out. So I literally have, when I want to look back at the trades for the day, I might have at least one, if not 2 or 3 printouts or screen captures. So they're digital JPEG files on my desktop of my trades. So my journal becomes more like a picture book because I can write notes right on the chart. So I literally have, and I like to print them out if possible. I know it's not the most green thing to do, but I like to print them out. I do recycle, but I like to print them out and I'll write my notes right on them. And I actually oftentimes will keep these. I've got binders and binders of these printouts with my notes, and that's how I keep a journal. I think journals are very important, but the time it takes to do all the writing is really unrealistic. I like printing out my journals. Anyways, so you guys have a better view of what it is I'm looking at. So when I tell you that the quad view is so important, looking at a minimum of, say, 4, ideally 6, maybe 8. I don't know what kind of real estate you have in terms of monitors, but it's very important that you're able to scan and compare the time frames, I think, at a single glance. And that's where the GRaB and the 34 EMA wave are so important. That's where they come in. So once you have these, let me go back to where we were before I kind of went off on a tangent to kind of make my point here. And then we'll take a quick look at the questions. Let's go through the lookbacks, all right? Now, some of the lookbacks, you might say, well, Raghee, this is very scrunched up. And you're right. If you have smaller charts like I do on my other 2 screens, I'm sitting at that very desk from that picture, by the way. So the charts to the left are actually still there right now. You're looking at a single monitor all the way to the right with my IBFX Trader 4 platform on it right now, okay? So in terms of the market look back for each time frame, this is what you do. This is what you'll assess in that look back. I'm not saying that you cannot change that at some point, but I need you to make some decisions about the market in that look back before you change that view. So the daily chart is 1 year. I would like to look at 1 year of data. Now I realize that having any platform basically give you exactly 1 year is not necessarily realistic. I mean, I would prefer July to July. I may not be able to squeeze that in, okay? When I try to squeeze it in, maybe I might get some more than I needed. Like this view right here is taking me from today's price action, this is the Aussie US dollar, to about the end of August. So, not quite 12 months, right? I don't mind if you're a little under like that, because here the next click over, it actually brings me to September of 2009. So I jumped from August of 2010 to September of 2009 with just 1 click. So I realize that the look back may not be perfect. If that's the case, just go ahead and use the one that's close. Okay, I don't want you getting too far away from it. The closer the better. Okay, not an exact science, but what we're trying to do is assess this. Look at significant and recent highs and lows. From this view, I can tell that the dominant trends, the trend of over the past year has been up on the Aussie US dollar. I can tell by the angle of the wave. I can tell by the series of what has more or less been higher lows and higher highs. I can look at all the green GRaB candles on this chart and see the bullish sentiment and momentum that has dominated over almost the past year. And I can also look to the right side of the chart and look most recently at how the 34 EMA wave, the green, the blue, and the red lines, have begun to move sideways and remain moving sideways at the top of this trend, as the Aussie US dollar has transitioned out of what has been mostly bullishness into more of a neutral, volatile, sideways market phase. So all these decisions I was able to make from this view, looking at the preponderance of green GRaB candles. And this view also makes sure that I'm consistently looking at this an amount of data that I think is psychologically relevant for the time frame, and it keeps the angle of the 34 EMA wave in what I call a consistent clock angle. I'm looking at a clock angle right now that is flattening, arguably getting to a 3 o'clock angle, but I think there's still enough lump and bump to it. Okay, it's still bumpy enough that I probably would look at this and say, yes, it's 2 to 4. Yes, we're in distribution. Yes, I should expect more volatility, but likely we will remain in a range where we will exhaust, and more aggressive inside the range entries can be taken. Always aggro. Inside the ranges are always aggro, but that's what this time frame is suggesting. Now, if you had the multiple screen view, along with this view, you'd see your 5, 15, 30, 62, 40, and you'd notice that today's trend was strongly up when you take a look at the shorter term time frames, like the 15, like the 30. And if you were to look at the 5, you'd see we flattened out to a pancake, just a little bit below the, I guess it would be what, the 1.0900 level. Just pancake. That's a 3 o'clock wave right there on the 5-minute chart. You can see your 15s flattening out, but the wave is still transitional. What's nice about having all these time frames right in front of you is the time it takes me to click through all the time frames, go back and forth, and decide. I'd see in a moment. To my left, I can see all the Aussie time frames that I'd be considering, and it took less than, I'd say, 4 seconds. I mean, it takes you can spend about a second on each chart because of the wave, because of the GRaB, because of the consistency within the look back for each time frame. I can make some very quick decisions about the market trend and about the clarity of the psychology and whether I want to trade it or not. Okay? So once I have taken a look at the daily and I realize that, gosh, there isn't a dominant trend here. There's no dominant up or down trend. There's no dominant bullishness or bearishness on this time frame. I'm going to make a decision about 2 things. One, if I want to trade this pair at all. That's a realistic question you can ask yourself. Do you want to venture into a market that lacks a dominant bullishness or bearishness? My opinion is when we lack a dominant bullish or bearish attitude, it's slightly more difficult to position yourself in the market because there's confusion, especially in distribution, okay, where we're congesting. The other decision I'm going to make, and this is if I say to myself, yes, I'm willing to trade this pair, how do I manage this confusion that's dominating the psychology, again, as seen on the daily chart? I can focus on the shorter term time frame. So let's talk about the market look back on those shorter term intraday time frames, starting with the smallest time frame I look at, which is the 5-minute. The 5-minute chart is a chart that I exclusively trade using my between the greens setup. Okay. Now, we've talked about between the greens in the past. I know we have video on it at the YouTube channel, and you can review that there. I'm not going to get into it today, but the 5-minute I use exclusively for between the greens. So when I'm looking at the 5-minute chart, I'm really only interested in trying to determine if there is an up or down trend on this time frame, which means a 12 to 2 o'clock or 4 to 6 o'clock angle within the market memory, which is about a day and a half to 2 days. Okay? About a day and a half to 2 days. Now, really, I usually end up looking at about a day to a day and a half. That's realistic. I don't need you going more than 2 days, though. That's a definite. So a day to a day and a half on the 5-minute chart is fine. On the 15, you're looking at about a 3 to 5 day look back. And again, from this look back, what you are trying to determine, significant highs and lows, what has been the dominant sentiment and momentum? Is there a trend? How long has that trend been going? Is there respect for the wave? You can draw your trend lines, by the way, from this view. You know, when I'm drawing trend lines, support and resistance, I'm doing it from the look back because I don't want to be drawing trend lines with touch points that extend 3-4 weeks back when it comes to a 15-minute chart. I think they lack relevance. Okay, so when you're trying to determine what are the major trend lines on this time frame, when you're trying to determine what the last major move and the overall trend that traders are considering reflective of a 15-minute Aussie US dollar right now, I think 3 to 5 days for a 15 is a sweet spot. Okay? For the 30-minute, the minimum is 1 week, and that's usually where I keep it. You can go as much as 2 weeks if you'd like, but 1 week is pretty much a sweet spot. You can see I've got the 14th to the 21st here, and it's not an uncomfortable view, but admittedly this is a large chart. This single chart is about the size of 4 of the charts that I showed you earlier on that screen from the article. Okay? So when you look at that single chart that's on your screen right now, as it's shown, as it looks at my screen, that single space would take up about 4 of these charts, just to get an idea how big or how small my charts actually are. All right. So 1 to 2 weeks, about 1 week's where I keep it. The 60-minute chart, I'd like you to look at about 2 weeks. And you can see I've got 2 weeks in this view. Again, significant highs and lows, the dominant trend. What's the dominant trend here? We're really starting to lack a dominant trend, aren't we? It's probably just as much red, bearish sentiment and momentum as there was green. Even though we pushed slightly higher due to today's trading, this is a market that really hasn't had a lot of organization in terms of a sustained trend. We've had plenty of trending times. You know, this is a trending moment here, downtrend, uptrend, downtrend, uptrend over the past 2 weeks. Okay, but on this view, we can't say there's a dominant trend. It's been going back and forth. All right. So trend lines, last major moves, significant highs and lows, and of course, the clock angle of the wave, which right now is absolutely 12 to 2. It is bullish, okay? But I can see there's been a lot of volatility here. Trends have not lasted for a very long time on this 60-minute chart. That's just been the nature of this time frame. And don't forget, the Aussie, when you look at the daily chart, it lacks any kind of bullish or bearish directional bias. So the 60-minute behavior should not be that surprising. Let's jump over to the 240, the 4-hour chart. So the look back here is about, I really don't want you looking at less than 4 weeks. And you can get up to about 8 weeks on this. So really 1 to 2 months is about where you're going to be looking at price-wise for the 240 or 4-hour chart. You can see this is about a 1-month look. Okay, that's the bare minimum. If you're 8 weeks or a little bit above, that's fine. Notice the angle of the wave here. It's 12 to 2. Really, whether I look at it with the basically what amounts to about a 2.5-month look back, or whether I look at the 1 month. You can see it's 12 to 2 either way. A little bit more dramatically so with more data, but the angle is certainly still intact regardless of where you fall within the high or low range of it. Make sense? Okay? And we already talked about the daily time frame and the importance with the directional bias. All right, so let me tackle some of the questions that have popped up here. So now that we've gotten the look back and so forth, talked about the clock angles, showed you where you can get the tools. Let me briefly tell you why you're doing this. And I hope I've really gotten across why it's important that you look at multiple charts, multiple time frames simultaneously. Speed, it's going to make the triage comparison process that much more effective and again, speedier. It's going to allow you to make quicker decisions and dismiss charts and time frames and pairs that you don't need to be using any of your attention on. Okay, you only have so much attention. If your attention's like a $1 bill, you only have 100 pennies. If you start occupying a lot of time and attention to a single pair or to a single time frame, something's going to get missed, which is likely a prompt and proactive trade. All right. So that's why it's so important. And of course, the market trend and the clarity of the psychology is what dictates what type of entry we're going to eventually use, whether it be a momentum strategy, whether it be a trend following swing trading strategy, whether it be a range bound strategy. It's also going to dictate which chart patterns you can consider, trending patterns, non-trending patterns. Okay? So let me go through the questions here. Thanks for your patience. All right, so the first question comes from Summer, who asked, since I'm using the look back, would the directional bias on the Aussie US dollar daily be an uptrend, or would you look at the current wave as being an uptrend starting to go 12 to 2? Summer, did I answer that question for you already when we discussed the directional bias I don't believe that we're looking at a 12 to 2 o'clock uptrend. I think it's been lumpy and bumpy enough that I would consider it 2 to 4. So, but thank you for that question. John, yeah, keeping it real, probably keeping it too real, right? Probably keeping it way too real. Down to my ka-ching button and the lint, the lint roller on my desk. So, yeah, but thanks. All right, what date was this on CNN? This is on CNN Money online. Actually, it went live today. This was actually posted today, coincidentally enough. And I'll be more than happy to give you all the link. It's on my Twitter feed as well, by the way. I've also posted it on my Facebook. But there's a link right there. Okay. All right, let's see. The left screen, yeah, I did actually have CNN on. I did. You know, and it's not very unusual for me to have a movie on or for me to be watching ESPN. I also have another TV in the room that's usually muted with CNBC. So that's actually out of the shot. But sometimes I'll put a movie in. Sometimes I'll put a video in. Right now I'm actually teaching myself how to make iPhone apps. So I've got some videos on that, you know, so whatever I might want to use to occupy my mind, especially once I've gotten into a trade and I don't want to micromanage. Productive distractions are very important as a trader. Finding something productive to do rather than micromanaging a trade. So yes, that is CNN. And I thought that was a nice touch, especially since this was going on CNN. Thanks for your question, Debbie. And yes, Debbie, that is an iPad. And what I was mentioning earlier is you can get a VPN service through IBFX, which allows you to have a virtual private server or network. I forget what they call it. Look on the website. But basically what it is it's a off-site backup. So if my internet were just to go kablooey, even my electricity, my iPad has an independent power source and has an independent internet source. So I can actually access that VPS. Thank you, John. I can access the VPS, log into my setup there, and I can still manage my trades. I wouldn't want to trade that way, but I can certainly manage entries, and I can deal with emergencies with the VPS. Okay. All right, so thank you for those questions. And yeah, I use the iPad for that. You know, you could use an iPhone for it too, but it's just simply too small. My desktop, my VPS desktop is actually quite comfortable on the iPad. And again, if I'm managing trades, it's an easy way to actually unhook from that disaster you see in front of you and walk out of the office. I'll take my iPad to lunch. I will take it with me, you know, whenever I'm leaving the house. By the way, also what's nice about that mobility, you know, having that is, again, it's about kind of unhooking. And that mobility, that VPS, is not dependent upon my internet connection here in South Florida. So it's got a separate backup and it's got separate internet connection in terms of the reliability, the uptime. For those of you that are running EAs that have to be on all the time, definitely a must-have. Okay. By the way, outside of that, I will actually utilize 2 other apps to access my desktop that's at home. So for those of you that don't have the VPN, although I really recommend it, you can, like I said, you can get it right through Interbank FX. If you don't have that or aren't ready for that jump yet, Log Me In, Ignition, is a good way to go, as is SplashTop. There's another app you can get right through your iPad called SplashTop. And I've had a lot of good luck with that one too. It's actually been, so far, knock on wood for me, as reliable as Log Me In at about 1/4 or 1/5 the price. I think Log Me In Ignition is $30, and I think the SplashTop is $5. So they're both free services once you get the app. You know, you can get a free LogMeIn account. You can the Splashtop streamer is free for the computers that you want to access through your iPad. You simply have to pay for the app at one time. Okay. All right, and these are the realities of being a home-based trader, right? I need to have connectivity, but I don't want to sit here in front of this mess all day long, right? Okay, so what chart do I have in the bottom right-hand corner? The bottom right-hand corner of my screen? It depends on which screen. One is a 5-minute and one is a weekly on that picture. I'm not sure if it was the left corner. The left corner is actually just a quote window. And each one of those left corners is a quote window. So I actually have all the symbols that I'm watching and their last trade, as well as time on the left corner of each monitor. It's a quote window. All right, so going down the rest of this list here, how many monitors do I have? What kind of computer handles this number? Oh, okay, sure. I have a Dell XPS. It's not a brand new one. It's not terribly old either. I'd say it's about 3 years old. Okay, but what I will say is I don't really care about processing speed. It's not really about the processor for me. Although, you know, you really can't get a slow computer anymore, especially if you're at the XPS level. And what I do recommend is a minimum of 4 gigs of memory. I know that Windows 7, I think, can use 4. I'm not sure if it can utilize more than that, but to me, the upgrade in memory on anything you own, laptop, desktop, whatever, it's all about memory as far as I'm concerned. And all these desktops now, or these, you know, the large computers have, you know, quad processing and whatever else. You actually see it. You see all the monitors in front of me on this setup. I've actually got a quad monitor set up on this computer, and then there's another computer behind me here in my office, which you probably hear me rolling to here now and then because I actually have my live IBFX4 trading platform on that computer and only that on the other computer. So that's actually where I go and execute my trades. So when you hear me rolling off, that noise, that's me rolling off to either grab a cup of tea or looking at my live platform. And that one has a dual card monitor, dual card setup. The one in front of me has 2 dual cards, and they're really not that difficult to set up. And they're 20-inch monitors. I love these monitors. I'm having a very hard time, and these are very old monitors. They're flat panels, and for the time they had a very nice trim, very thin trim. But what the problem is now with the monitors, these are, if you notice, they're swiveled vertically. And you can't do that with many monitors nowadays. So so it's a 4 monitor, and I have, again, a dual card setup behind me. And I do have one currency, yes, on actually what amounts to 6 time frames, 5, 15, 30, 60, 240 daily. Okay, 6 time frames. The extra 2 windows you see, again, one is for the quote board, and the other is just an extra window like a second 5-minute chart with my between the green setup, or a weekly view. Okay. Since I have so many pairs open at the bottom, how would I spread all those out on a screen? I have a very large TV as a computer screen, so I can see a lot, but it seems like so many to try and open at once. My quote window actually is linked so that it changes all the time frames simultaneously. And that's something that I want to make available to you all sooner rather than later. And I actually am working on that, where when you change one chart, that you actually have what's called a symbol link. I had one programmed for me on the MT4 platform many years ago. I don't want a time frame link because I want my time frames to remain the same, but it's actually a symbol link custom indicator. Or was it an EA? Whatever it was, it's a symbol link that I had a programmer design for me. And I actually want to make it available to you guys, and that's one of the projects I'm working on, a stable one. Because this one works pretty well, but it can be a little unstable. Okay, so that's how I manage it, Summer. As far as the screenshots I was talking about regarding the journals, the one I recommend, and I believe there's one built into Windows now. There is some sort of little screen grabbing tool, but the one that I've been using for years is available from a company called TechSmith, and it's called Snagit. And you can get a free 30-day trial and see if you even like it. I think the program costs $30, but I'm pretty sure there is a built-in window, whatever you want to call it, I don't know, like an image screen capture tool built into Windows now. I just like the Snagit one because I have a lot of flexibility as far as grabbing a customized region or grabbing the whole window or grabbing an individual window. It's very simple to use, and I've just been using it for so long that I really haven't deviated from it. And I can draw on it as well. You can draw, make little notes on it and then save the JPEG and then print it out later if I even want to. As far as the webinar for the Between the Greens, if you actually Google Between the Greens or go to the YouTube channel, I believe the webinar was simply called the 5-Minute Between the Greens Strategy, and I actually have past updates that outline that strategy as well. If you don't actually want to watch the webinar, you can just simply read the update. Okay? So I think I gave you guys a link to the CNN article. I believe was a request. I sent that out. Okay. Thanks, Debbie. I'm glad the wave's been working for you. Very pleased about that. That's fantastic. Of course, the wave, the 34, for those of you that are curious, is actually a Fibonacci-based moving average. Okay. You can find me on Twitter. My username is Raghee Horner. It's the same on Facebook as well, and LinkedIn and everything else. I try to keep it consistent. And of course, the Daily Forex Trading Edge is on Facebook, and you can actually follow Interbank FX on Twitter as well. And by the way, again, one of the things that I was mentioning as far as the different feeds, you can actually access those from right inside your platform now using the IBFX Connect. That's a custom EA that you can run from right inside your platform. Notice I didn't have to leave my MT4 or anything. It's right inside there, and I can do my Twitter feed from right in there. Okay? No, actually, this is a ka-ching button. It just makes me giggle. It's a ka-ching button, actually. I forgot where I got it from. I found it somewhere, and it just, like I said, it made me laugh. Okay, so let's see. How do I make use of the quote window in my analysis? I actually don't use the quote window for anything more than making it easy to change my charts, because all I need to do is click on it. So I don't really use the quote window other than just to see where the prices are at, because I might be trading 7 or 8 different pairs. That's not common. It's usually much less than that. But I might be trading a number of pairs simultaneously, so I may not have all those charts in front of me. So when I have the quote window there, I can see where the prices are trading, and I know if I'm nearing an entry price or a stop loss price or a profit target price. So it's really just about monitoring where the price is at a glance in a number of pairs. Okay? So thanks for that question. So it really doesn't have anything to do with the trading strategy, just being able to keep an eye on price. Nothing more, nothing less. Yeah, you know what? They're just, it's funny, Joy. It's funny you asked, because it seems that the supplements have gotten a lot of questions. They're just supplements in front of me. I was actually commenting over at Forex Factory. Somebody asked what all those bottles were. And those are all supplements. I actually am, in terms of, I actually flew out to Toronto. My mom and I went out there. I wanted to take her to Niagara Falls, and for 3 days I taught a gentleman who was, at the time, I don't know if he still is, I've lost touch with him, but he was a very smart guy, very charming guy, enjoyed his company a bunch, and he was a professional gambler. I believe blackjack was his game and craps. And he was actually written up in Forbes magazine and everything. He thought he had done the interview with the understanding it was going to be in Rolling Stone. He was very excited about that, but it actually ended up being in Forbes, and he was pretty crushed. But I said, hey, dude, that's still pretty cool. I'm pretty sure it was Forbes. But anyways, he had a very particular diet when he was gambling, what he ate, what he didn't eat, and so forth, and he was pretty much into supplements too. And I always have been somewhat big into supplements. I do a lot of training, and I know I feel better when I'm on them. And those are my supplements, my morning supplements. Everything from supporting eye health to circulation to you name it. All natural stuff, all good stuff. I used to be very, very addicted to Red Bulls and coffee. I still indulge every now and then, but the supplements are basically even better than that. So that's what I have a handful of supplements, a little regimen that I have in the morning, and regimen for pre-workout, regimen, you name it. So those are my supplements. I don't want to forget to take them. So there they are. So yeah. Is a VPN from IBFX for free? You know what? I don't know how that is set up. I probably shouldn't even, what I would probably tell you to do is contact customer service. If you go to the home page and click on virtual private server, it's right there on the home page. I believe they will tell you what is involved, who offers it. I actually know the guys from Red Paladin, very smart guys. I think the way it works, I think it's listed right here, is it's $35 a month, or if you have a minimum of $5,000 average balance, it's waived or reimbursed or however you want to do it. So either way, it's very inexpensive. Gives you some information about the Red Paladin service. This company, I believe, if I remember right, and it's been a while, but I actually introduced one of the higher-ups of Interbank FX to the gentleman that I know from Red Paladin because I was using their service separate, and I loved it. And Interbank FX is always looking for that little edge for their clients. They realize it's these small, I don't think it's a small thing, but it's these small services that make a big difference. And when I told them how much success I was having with it, they went back and they looked at security and they looked at reliability and all these other things, and they decided, yep, we like them too, and this is the deal. So I was using Red Paladin even before Interbank, and if I remember right, I think I introduced them to the service. So I'm a big believer in it, and they ran this thing every which way to Sunday to make sure it was what they wanted for their clients. And here we are. It's available through Interbank FX now, which I'm so proud because, like I said, this was a innocent little introduction that I made about a tool that I loved, and they made it available. That's just how cool the guys over in Salt Lake are. So a little background there on the Red Paladin VPN, whatever you want to call it, service. All right, let me see. We'll tackle a couple more questions here, and then we'll call it a night. For the 2 to 4 o'clock consolidation, when the range is tight, well, remember there's two types of sideways markets. We have the sideways market that is a flat 3 o'clock, where we would expect momentum entries to be utilized. We look at that flat wave on the Aussie, if you recall, and then when we have that more lumpy, bumpy look, where it isn't flat and there's a lot more volatility, that's when I expect exhaustion. So it's two different types of sideways market trends. It's two different types of psychology. So it's very important that we differentiate 3 o'clock from 2 to 4. And if you just can't make a call about it, we lack market clarity, right? Move on to another time frame, move on to another pair. Okay? All right. As far as the GRaB, the green, red, and blue, the red candles simply mean bearish momentum. The green candles simply mean bullish momentum. And the blue candles simply mean neutral. That's it. It's not too complicated. However, there are some videos at that link that I had shown you all, the ibfx.com/tools/GRaB. link, there's some videos there about it. So you can check that out. Again, the whole idea behind it is green is bullish, red is bearish in terms of sentiment and momentum, and blue is neutral. And it's the culmination of sentiment that creates momentum. It's the culmination of momentum that creates a trend. So I'll gauge sentiment and momentum with my GRaB candles, and if we have a steady progression of green, usually you'll see eventually the wave will kick up to 12 to 2, and if we see a steady progression of red, eventually you'll see that the wave will hook down to a 4 to 6 and we'll have a downtrend. So it's that progression of sentiment and momentum, that organization, I should say, of sentiment and momentum that gives us the eventual trend. Okay, and that's all there is to GRaB candles. You know, I keep my things I try to keep the trading and the ideas behind them as simple as possible. All right. Do I have more than one Forex account? Yes, I do. I do. I keep my end-of-day trades separate from my intraday trades, so I have separate accounts. Are these custom indicators available on the demo accounts? Yes. What you're looking at right now is not my live account. This is a demo. This is not my live account. As I mentioned, my live account's on a separate computer behind me, and this is actually a demo. So yes, you can get these in a demo. Yeah, supplements for successful trading, right? I need to write that article, do that webinar, right? I cannot give medical advice, right? That'd be a big problem. I don't think compliance would like that very much. Am I giving nutritional advice? But, you know, traders are more than a can of Red Bull. I think we've been pigeonholed into that. Okay, so let's see. Oh, thank you so much, Ming Ying. I really appreciate your comment. And you know what? You always have such thoughtful questions. I always appreciate that as well. So that means a lot. That means very much. I'm absolutely humbled by that. Thank you. And oh gosh, thanks to you too, Joy. I appreciate. Gosh, you guys are gonna make my head swell. If it gets too big, I won't be able to leave my office. All right, so next class is going to be next Thursday, and we're going to be talking about something. What are we going to be talking about? Let's head on over to the Daily Forex Trading Edge, shall we? And because it should be listed there. Head on over to the Education tab, and our topic for next week is using MT4 for multiple setups. Oh, actually, I talk about my quad setup. How to scan. It's going to be triage and all that kind of stuff. So there you go. You can register there. That's next week's talk. All right, gang. I think I've rambled on enough. So I really appreciate y'all hanging out for the whole hour plus here. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for the questions. I hope this was helpful. Again, just kind of going back to basics, what the wave is, what GRaB candles are, market look back, market psychology, directional bias. We just happened to have that CNN article running up today, so I thought it'd be a good opportunity to give you guys an idea of what I'm sitting in front of, why it's so important to have multiple charts, multiple screens if you can do it, and hopefully give you that edge, give you that analytical edge to make decisions, I think, quicker and with more but simple information, okay? And again, I hope you take advantage of the VPS service as well. You saw that I had my iPad in that picture. That is my backup. Power goes out, internet goes out, I can still access my VPS, still access my account, and protect myself. All right? So as always, thank you so much for your time and your questions and your attention. And I will see you all next week, okay? Take care, my friends.